Welcome to the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast, a podcast where we teach speakers how to land paid speaking engagements and corporate contracts. Each week, we deliver high-quality content that teaches you how to level up your speaking business. Be sure to join the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group after having your mind blown by this information-filled episode. Now, here's your host, Ashley Kirkwood, lawyer and professional speaker. This is the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast.
Hey guys, it's Ashley Kirkwood with the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. So welcome, Speak Your Way to Cash community. We are back with a super impactful episode. And today we're interviewing Marc, and he is the breakthrough success guy. So I'm sure you guys have either heard of him, but if not, then you will definitely know more about him after this interview. Marc, welcome to Speak Your Way to Cash.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. And tell us a little bit about your brand, what it is you do now, and how speaking plays a pivotal role in that.
Sure. So I host the Breakthrough Success podcast and two other podcasts as well. And pretty much what I do is I help people build their authority platform. A lot of people need help with launch, growing, monetizing their podcast or YouTube channel. So that's usually where I tend to step in. And speaking allows me to get in front of more people who they are serious, they are committed, but they don't necessarily know, like, what are the steps they have to take to grow their podcast? What are the steps they have to take to be successful on YouTube and building their platform? And speaking gets me in front of a lot of my potential prospects.
That's awesome. And a lot of the speakers that we work with don't have a podcast or a YouTube channel just yet. What would you say are the benefits of having some of those platforms to a professional speaker?
Well, as a professional speaker, what you could do with a podcast, if you interview people, is you can interview some of the event organizers to build relationships with them. And that can help you get on more stages. That's one of the ways I was able to get on Podcast Movement, because I built a relationship with one of the event organizers. And you can also get to know more speakers through your interviews, which you see like where they're speaking at. And then you realize, oh, that's an event that I could speak at next time. Or sometimes speakers even help you with intro. So podcasting is really powerful in that regard. YouTube, you could do the same thing, but it's better for YouTube. You could do both, like an interview and just like solo, but people get to see you do videos. They get to see you talk. They get to see what you're all about as a speaker, because it's one thing to say I'm a speaker. It's another thing to say, here's my YouTube channel where I am demonstrating that I'm an expert on these topics.
That's 100% true. And how long would you say it takes to start monetizing a podcast?
Well, that depends on the strategy you have in place. I mean, for Breakthrough Success, it took me around 2 years. But for my most recent one, Ditch the Job, I was monetizing before I even launched it, because some of the guests, they want extra sponsorship exposure, which is something I offer. And some of the guests even turn into clients. So if you frame it that way, you can make money right away versus what I did with Breakthrough Success, which took me like 2 years before it got rolling in the revenue standpoint.
And so I know that you also have written quite a few books. Talk a little bit about how you got started as an author, as that's definitely something that most speakers want to put on their bio as author.
So I really wanted to write a book for a long time. So ever since I was very young, and self-publishing really gives you that possibility to do that. And as you write the first book, and in self-publishing, you just keep writing and writing. I'm one of those guys who I write a first book, I'll write another one a month later. So that evolved to me writing several books that were all geared towards what are the things I want to talk about. Like my book, YouTube Decoded, or Podcast Domination, or Content Marketing Secrets. Those are actual talks that I give. So you could frame your book around the talk that you want to give. So it's very connected to your whole brand. It's very connected to the type of talk you give. And that's going to give you a leg up on the application. And you could even use your book to get more clients and build your business.
That's awesome. And what is your most prized business accomplishment to date?
Wow. I mean, I feel like a lot of people, they just have so many things that can really qualify. I mean, whether it's for speaking on your first stage or being able to hit certain milestones. I mean, just like one of the things for me was becoming a USA Today, Wall Street Journal bestselling author for my book, Write and Grow Rich, which I co-wrote with 23 other authors. But I say that's just one of them along the chain.
And how old are you now, Marc? Because I know that a lot of folks say they congratulate you on achieving so much at a young age. And I know you got started blogging at around 11. Is that right?
Yes, it is. I'm
Okay.
22 now.
You're 22 now. That's awesome. And how many people would you say that you've already helped become an authority in their particular market or expertise?
I mean, I have hundreds of thousands of people who currently follow my content on social media. I also have over 100,000 students in my online courses who have gone through them and just learned some things about how to grow your digital marketing strategies that allow you to reach more people, and also a little bit productivity mindset, but a lot of it really geared towards building your authority platform.
That makes a lot of sense. And those are huge numbers. So you have a really, really, really big impact. And you've interviewed folks like Seth Golden. And I mean, you've really done a lot in your career. And you still have so much more to go. For a lot of folks who are listening, they're just getting started in their speaking business. So they're very new to branding. And it gets very overwhelming when you think about, okay, I could start a podcast, I could have a YouTube channel, I could be big on Instagram, I could be on LinkedIn. It gets really overwhelming. So what would you say to those folks who are trying to figure out where to start? Would you recommend starting on several platforms or becoming an expert on one platform and then going from there?
Well, I think regardless of who you are, you definitely need speaking reels. So think about how you can get on some stages, even if you organize a small event on your own, even if you're just doing YouTube videos to demonstrate you could talk in front of people. And now when it comes to which platform, because there are so many, you bring up a really great point. It's the most important thing to really be doing is to be building relationships. So if you're on Instagram and you're growing, but you're not really able to engage with those people, that's not the platform for you. That's why I really love podcasting, because we're talking in a way that, we're not going to talk like this through a series of Instagram DMs,
right,
through a series of Facebook comments. Podcasting really gives you that next level and allows you easier access to people who normally wouldn't talk with you or normally wouldn't, want to share insights or anything like that. So for instance, you could have an event organizer on your show, and instead of it being I want to speak on your stage, how can we make that happen? It's, I want you on my show. Let's talk. And then you get to know the person. And then you say you're a speaker, you're looking to expand. And then the event organizer thinks, hey, you might be a good speaker for our event. So I'd say podcasting is great for building relationships, and definitely the one that I'd start with. And then you can just repurpose on other platforms so you're able to touch some of those other ones as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, for the podcast, one of the things that I want to point out to those that are listening who are considering starting a podcast, it should have a purpose and it should play a role in your sales pipeline. So you should think about that from the outset. My first podcast was called The Currency of Confidence, which is my signature speech, but I didn't have a plan for how that particular show was going to help me grow my business. It was just a cool topic. It was a cool name. It was one that I was using already. And what I found was I didn't really have time for a hobby as an entrepreneur. And because of that, I lost a little bit of the interest in the show. But when I pivoted to Speak Your Way to Cash, it just made so much more sense. We have a ton of speakers from around the world who listen, and you all come in my Facebook group. I see you at my event. So it makes so much sense for the business. So I do think listen to Marc's advice and think through how it's going to play a role in whatever your ultimate goal is, whether that be sponsorships or getting people in your sphere to eventually coach them on some other things.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great point. Just connect your podcast with your brand and with your talk too, so that event organizers love it, your listeners love it, and at the same time, you're building these valuable relationships.
Yes, definitely. And I know that you mentioned relationships, and I think that's a really critical piece for growing a business, obviously, but also for just staying sane in a digital world. How do you suggest people take something such as podcasting, which can be, if you do solo episodes, it can be very isolating, and get people talking? Do you recommend they have a Facebook group that goes along with it? How do you engage your listeners to your podcast so that they feel really connected to you?
I have a Breakthrough Success Facebook group, so I do lead listeners into that group and say, if you enjoy these episodes, you want to reach out to me, join the Facebook group, also sharing your email address. Just give your listeners that way to contact you so that, you actually have listeners, because sometimes it feels like you're just creating content. You're not sure who's listening to it. You see these numbers that say are getting downloaded, but it's when you had that listener saying, I really loved your most recent episodes. Wow, that's how you know you're having the impact. I feel like you mentioned that isolation, which is so true. And we do need to keep getting reminded of the impact we're having. So I do feel like if you're listening all the way to this point of the show, definitely let us both know that you have listened to this point and that, you're liking what you're listening to.
No, definitely. That's a really critical point. And you all know you can always leave reviews. I read all the reviews. I went like a week without reading the reviews, and I was like, whoa, we have new reviews. And it's people saying how much it's impacted them and how the guests are so helpful. So yes, I totally agree. And be sure to check out Marc's group, the Breakthrough Success Facebook group. We can link to that. And then also there's a Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group, because we're actually in those groups. I don't know, sometimes people think, I've met people in person who listen to the podcast when they come to an in-person event, and they're like, wait, I listen to your voice. I can't believe you're in front of me right now. So we're just like very regular people that are actual human beings, and we read all the posts. We're in the groups. I don't have like a bot or someone who's managing it for me. So that's actually us. I think it's a great opportunity to really connect. Hey guys, it's Ashley Kirkwood here, and I know this is an amazing interview. And if you are someone who is interested in taking your speaking career to the next level, then do I have something for you? Okay, I need you to go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay. That's ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay. The link is also in the show notes that you can grab the Speak Your Way to Cash live replay, which has 7 modules, a ton of information about how you can start speaking your way to cash. Now, this training is absolutely action-packed, phenomenal. It has additional resources. It has templates. It has a podcast pitch template, a college pitch template, something you can send to media outlets to get on television. It has everything you need to develop a sales strategy, a press strategy, and a plan to skyrocket your speaking career. And it is crazy affordable, okay? So head on over there right now, ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay, and grab your copy today. All right, let's get back to this interview. So you've talked a little bit about podcasting. I totally see how that could be great. And I love your tip about interviewing potential clients, because that's so valuable. What about YouTube? So I like YouTube a lot. I sometimes feel like it's a little bit, or it has been harder for me to connect on YouTube. Outside of the comments, it has been a little bit more difficult outside of the folks who go from YouTube and maybe join my list. So what are some tips you have for making YouTube useful, and do you recommend that it be very niched?
YouTube definitely has a lot of benefits to it. They have the search engine, they have the algorithm, they have a lot of data that you can never dream of getting with a podcast episode or with your own blog. Like you could see like retention rate, you can see the percentage of people who are clicking on your thumbnail. Like click-through rate and retention rate are two of the most important things to look at to see like, how successful your YouTube video could potentially be on their algorithm. So I think for YouTube, it's, especially if you're solo, like it's not like, like right now, like we're talking and there's a value in that relationship. But the way you get the value on YouTube is you get people to view, you get some to comment, you get some to join your email list. So on YouTube, it's important to have a call to action in your video, have that script in place. I know people don't like doing script, especially podcast hosts, because we could talk like on the cuff and that's our fun conversation. But it is good to script in where you're going to include like, the join this thing, enter your email address, or leave a comment if you like this tip. So you want to include those call to action so you do boost engagement on the platform. It has such massive potential. And once you take off on it, like the takeoff like fuels very quickly.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I like that a lot. And that makes a ton of sense, because otherwise, and you know what? That is one of the problems. That's probably my fault on YouTube, because on podcasting, it's so much easier to make sure the call to action is in there. You can always have the same end script, the start script, the beginning script. And for some reason, when I first started my podcast, so for any speakers out there, maybe you all relate to this, even though it's your show, you feel so oddly self-promotional by including your own commercials. And it's so weird, because for the first time I did it, people were like, oh, great, I'm going to come to your event. I didn't even know that was going on. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And my husband always tells me, you need to tell people about what you have going on more. But I'm like, I'm always putting out content. Don't they know? Like, why don't they just click the link? No one clicks links. You have to lead them to it. You have to tell people to click it. If you have multiple links in your Instagram, you have to say, click the fifth link. You have to make it so easy for folks now because of, I blame Amazon, but maybe it's something else. But people are really into self gratification, get it quick, get it fast. So promoting every single time, always telling them where to go would be so helpful.
That's a really great point.
Yeah. And so for those who want to, so we talked about podcasting and YouTube, for folks who want to write a book and they don't quite know, they know what they want to write about, but they have a problem getting it done. You've written so many books. Do you have a format or a formula that you've used to kind of write those books? And how does that look?
I mean, once you have your title, it's just a matter of coming up with all the different ideas you want to cover in your book and then organizing them. So you have an idea of what your chapters are supposed to look like, what your key points in each chapter are going to look like, because the reason people struggle with the book is they don't know what comes next. Like they finish typing on the page and then they see another blank page. It's like, how am I going to fill this thing? How am I going to add words to this to make this a complete page while having it make sense? Because then someone's going to end up reading it. And then you got to repeat that process all over again until you finish your book. So it's better to just spend the initial time coming up with an outline, coming up with chapters, coming up with key points and the order of how you want to present all this information. Now, one thing you could also do is if you feel like you want to write about chapter like 7 right now, but you're only on chapter 2, just go ahead and write on chapter 7. You could go back and edit later, but it's more important for you to just get, if one chapter appeals to you more than the other right now, even though you're not on that chapter, just go ahead and write it because you are in that flow right now. And the next day comes, you may not want to be as excited about chapter 7 as much.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that's something that people can pretty easily implement as well. Is like, just go with the flow, go with the zone that you're in, but write out an outline. And one of the things that was so eye-opening to me was that if I wrote an outline and then I wrote the outline, then I would copy and paste the outline on the second page, and then I would just fill in the content of the outline. For some reason, I have to go in order with the way my brain works, but I like the idea of just writing for the mood that you're in, knowing where you want to go, and piecemealing it together later. Hey guys, it's your host, Ashley Kirkwood. As many of you know, I'm also an attorney, but did you know that I own a law firm called Mobile General Counsel? This quick commercial is brought to you by Mobile General Counsel, the law firm for speakers and entrepreneurs. We help you bulletproof your brand with contracts and trademarks. Every speaker knows the importance of having a solid contract. Did you also know that it is equally as important that once you develop that rock star signature speech, you get it trademarked, meaning you can then prevent other speakers from using the title of your signature speech all across the country. Trademarking is something that we do at our firm, and we do it for a flat fee, and we even have different payment arrangements based on your actual budget. So please do give us a call at 312-880-8518 or head on over to mobilegeneralcounsel.com and book a consultation today. That's mobilegeneralcounsel.com and book a consultation today. Talk to you soon. So did you self-publish any of your books, or were they all through a traditional publisher?
I've self-published all of them. Traditional publishers have approached me. I just like the self-publishing model better because you can never publish a book a month with the traditional format. And you just have so much more control and more royalties per book sale.
Definitely. And you already have a platform, so that makes it even easier.
Yeah.
In terms of your speaking, how speaking plays into your business, for the speaking opportunities that you've gotten, do you have a pitching formula that you've utilized, or have people come to you and asked based on the platforms that you've built through podcasting, YouTube, and authorship?
I prefer to not do a speaking formula. That's because for me, I'd rather look at who the person is, because you could, I've done some where, you send the rubric. They're like, this is me. This is some stuff about me. This is how I can provide value to your audience. But each person's audience is going to be different. And if you say for podcast women, for instance, I could provide all the podcasters, all the creatives value. That's different from I could provide the attendees value. You're catering it more to the event. So I would say when it comes to a formula, just know what parts of you can say, you can say I wrote this book, but okay, I'm going to focus on the fact I wrote Podcast Domination. You don't have to know that I wrote let's say a dividend book. you don't have to know that for podcast movement to see like, hey, this guy knows about podcasting. So you really want to look at the event and tailor your pitch to the event.
Yeah, I like that approach. And that works a lot better with event organizers, especially conference organizers, because podcast movement, they get so many submissions to speak. And so it's really important that you do tailor it. Did you speak at the one in Orlando this year?
No, I spoke at Philly.
Philly. Okay, cool. Cool. I spoke at the one in Florida this past year or last year.
Awesome.
It's a great event. They do a really, really good job with the event.
Yeah, I love how they do it.
Yeah, I really recommend it. And if you all are listening, they do have an open call for submission. And this year they added Podcast Movement Evolution, and they were looking for speakers for that for a while. They may have found them already by the time this episode comes out, but keep an eye out because it's a great platform to speak on. And the stage is gorgeous, and you will have video and photo of you speaking, which is really important. And I think the first thing Marc said was get a demo video, which was the number one tip for how to blow up your speaking business that I gave on episode 41, I believe it is. So I am 100% on board with getting video. But this has been awesome. You've given us such great things to think about. If we wanted to get your book or find you on Instagram or Facebook, what would we do? How would we get in touch with you?
I would say for my books, if you search like Podcast Domination on Amazon, or if you just search Marc Guberti, that's how you'll find the books. My website is marcguberti.com. For anyone who likes the YouTube, like the podcasting, like the book idea, and wants to figure out how do I do that for myself, how can we mentor through the process? I do have some free strategy calls available, marcguberti.com/strategy to see if we're a good fit.
Awesome. I love that. And so what are your final tips? You have the attention of new speakers and some speakers who've been in the game for a while who are looking to level up their brand through the age that we're in now. What would you recommend? What's your parting advice for the Speak Your Way to Cash community?
My parting advice would be to think about what kind of investments you can make into your business. Now, I know I'm a coach. I know we all have different products to sell, but I have bought books, I've bought training courses, but the best return in the sense of me taking action, me making revenue has always been through coaches. If they're I've had a podcast coach, I've had a YouTube coach, I've had a Pinterest coach, and I've seen massive success in all three of those areas ever since hiring the coaches. So there is a different dynamic based on what investment you make. And I do feel if you look at any professional speaker, that person makes a lot of investments on their way to the top. So I would think about making different investments into your future, even if it's just Kindle Unlimited, which I love, which is $10 a month. You get access to so many books, but that's what I would think about.
I think that's phenomenal advice. And I totally agree that coaching helps. It just helps shortcut the process. I don't have to read every free blog and to listen to 7,000 free webinars. It makes so much more sense. So that's phenomenal advice. Well, Marc, thank you so much for joining us on the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. I'm going to link to your website, which I believe will help link to everything else, but we'll link to your website and your Facebook group for sure. And we're so glad to have you. And thanks for your great feedback and wisdom.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right. Wasn't that interview amazing? If you're anything like me, you have pages full of notes. But here's the thing. Before you head out, I want you to go to facebook.com and join the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group. That is where I am. That's where a ton of other speakers are, a ton of other people who listen to the show. We all congregate there and chat. And it's 100% free. Now, if you're ready to take your speaking career to the next level, I have two ways for you to do that. One, you can go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay and pick up the live replay. That training is 7 modules, chock full of information. It's crazy. Go over there, read all about it. Or if you want a more personal experience, you already know that you want to be a speaker. You're ready to fully commit and you want someone to walk you through it and save you tons of time Googling and doing it on your own, then book a VIP day with me. You can go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com, scroll down until you see the VIP day section and get more information on that there. All right. Thank you guys again for watching. Please do not forget to leave us a review. That is how we keep this train rolling and get some of the best speakers in the world to get on this show. So please, please, please leave a review. Shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram, and Facebook in the Speak Your Way to Cash group, Instagram at the Ashley Nicole Show. And I'd be more than happy to chat with you and say hi. All right, y'all have an awesome, awesome day.